But the Israelites acted unfaithfully in regard to the devoted things, these things that were devoted to destruction. Achan, son of Carmi, the son of Zimri, the son of Zerah, of the tribe of Judah, took some of them. So the Lord's anger burned against Israel. So one man sinned, and the entire nation is now under judgment from God. That's one of the drawbacks to being in a covenant community like this. A family covenant community based on genealogy and bloodlines. One man can sin and the entire community gets heat from God for it. And it's written as though all the Israelites sinned. The Israelites one man sinned, but it says at the beginning of the text, the Israelites acted unfaithfully. So one man acted unfaithfully, and therefore all the Israelites are considered to have acted unfaithfully. That's a pretty harsh standard. I'm glad I don't have to live in a standard like that anymore. One man can sin, and the effects of that sin can affect other people. That's absolutely true, is still true, has always been true. We saw an example of that back in Numbers when you had the leaders of the rebellion against Aaron, and they were condemned as well as all their families and people belonging to them, whether or not they were involved or not. They may have been, but they were condemned anyway. We see that, and we see that play out. One man can do, somebody can do something, can fall into sin. It reverberates out from there. There are repercussions that go far beyond the individual. Far beyond the individual. And that's a constant lesson that we deal with in life every day to this day. You can, even if you think you may be containing your sin to yourself, but it rarely ever works out that way. Your sin will have repercussions that will be felt far beyond you. But we aren't living in a covenant today where one person can sin and the entire community is judged for that sin in the same way. Which I'm glad for. Which I have to admit I am glad for, because that would be a very high standard. Now Joshua sent men from Jericho to Ai, which is near Beth Aven, to the east of Bethel, and told them, "Go up and spy out the region." So Joshua likes spying missions. He was a spy himself once. He was one of the two faithful spies that went to scout out the land to begin with 40 years earlier. He and Caleb. So he likes spying. But he only wants 2 guys. He doesn't have 12. I guess he doesn't want to have to deal with the majority report coming back with a negative report like that happened in his day. So the men went up and spied out Ai, or how you pronounce this name. It's just Ai. I mean, literally, the word is Ai. In our English text, it's spelled Ai, so I just say Ai. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it or not. I guess, maybe, I don't know. When they returned to Joshua, they said, "Not all the people will have to go up against Ai. Send 2,000 or 3,000 men to take it, and do not weary all the people, for only a few men are there." So about 3,000 men went up, but they were routed by the men of Ai, who killed about 36 of them. They chased the Israelites from the city gate as far as the stone quarries. I have a footnote down here. Well, it's not really all that important. It's Shabirim or whatever. And I guess that's what the Hebrew word is behind that. They translate it as stone quarries. And struck them down on the slopes. At this, the hearts of the people melted and became like water. Now, we've read earlier about the fear of the Israelites melting the hearts of their enemies. Now the Israelites' hearts are melted. Even Joshua is going to have this reaction. Then Joshua tore his clothes and fell face down to the ground before the ark of the Lord, remaining there till evening. The elders of Israel did the same and sprinkled dust on their heads. So they're in serious mourning here. And Joshua said, "Ah, sovereign Lord, why did you ever bring this people across the Jordan to deliver us into the hands of the Amorites to destroy us? If only we had been content to stay on the other side of the Jordan. O Lord, what can I say now that Israel has been routed by its enemies? The Canaanites and the other people of the country will hear about this. and they will surround us and wipe out our name from the earth. Remember, that's the worst thing that could happen to you if you're an ancient person living in an ancient culture. The worst thing that can happen to you isn't even death. The worst thing that can happen to you is having your name wiped out from the earth. That is their form of eternal punishment. And that's what he's afraid is going to happen to them now. What then will you do for your own great name? You saw that. This is the other cat. This is, you go up there. So Joshua reacts pretty harshly here, honestly. I would say this is an indication of a problem with Joshua, because this is an overreaction, frankly. Joshua should know better by now that something went awry with God's plan, and that this is not the fault of the Lord not being with them, because he can't deliver them into victory. Like, honestly speaking here, Joshua is overreacting in a negative way. And God himself is going to tell him that here in a moment. The Lord said to Joshua, "Stand up! What are you doing down on your face?" So even the Lord was a little miffed at Joshua's overreaction here. Israel has sinned. Now Joshua didn't know that, okay? In Joshua's defense, he didn't know that Israel had sinned and brought about this destruction on themselves. He didn't know that. But Joshua did know enough at this point to know that God was able to deliver them to victory. So the fact that he didn't indicates that something is wrong. That should have been his reaction. Instead, he overreacts and panics and his heart melts with fear, and he gets down on his face and asks God, "Why have you brought us out here to destroy us?" Which is what the people have been doing since they left Egypt, practically. So that doesn't speak very well of Joshua. This is definitely a moment of weakness on the part of Joshua. I actually like Joshua a lot. In fact, if there's any one person in the Bible that I would like to have been, if I could have assumed the role of any one person in the Bible, it probably would have been Joshua. Joshua was there from the time they were in Egypt onward, and he got to see everything. He got to see the plagues. He got to see the Red Sea crossing, everything that happened at Mount Sinai. He was Moses' assistant already when they were at Sinai, already the leader of Israel's armies. He was there during all the years in wilderness wandering. He was the one who led them into the land. He was the general as they conquered the land. He got to settle in the land and spend the remaining years of his life in peace and retirement in the land. Like, if there's any one person whose life I would have liked to have had in the Old Testament, it would probably have been Joshua. Because he would have had everything, even more so than Moses. Moses would have been a prince of Egypt for the first 40 years of his life. But Joshua not only got to go into the land, he got to have peace in the land in his later days. So he saw everything that Moses did from the Exodus onward, the plagues of Egypt onward, plus a whole lot more. So there's only one person that I would like to have been. If I could have taken the role of any one person in the Bible, it probably would have been Joshua, just to be able to have seen and experienced all this stuff. But this is not a moment of strength for him here. This is definitely a moment of weakness. So the Lord said to Joshua, "Stand up! What are you doing down on your face? Israel has sinned. They have violated my covenant, which I commanded them to keep. They have taken some of the devoted things. They have stolen. They have lied. They have put them with their own possessions. This is why the Israelites cannot stand against their enemies. They turn their backs and run because they have been made liable to destruction." Going against the will of God will always put you on the path of destruction. Sometimes it may be immediate, sometimes it may be a long-term thing. But going against the will of God will always put you on the path of destruction. God does not make anyone follow him. He does not make anyone choose him. But God has expectations for his creatures. And he made the world. And he expects his creatures who live in the world to live a certain way and according to a certain standard. And if he doesn't make us do that, but if we don't, we will have consequences for it. If we insist on refusing his standards and going about our own way and making up our own standards, we're going to run into consequences for that eventually, which will ultimately culminate with our destruction. He does not make us follow his standards. He does not make us choose his way. But he is not going to reward us for turning away from him. And eventually, if we continue to turn away from him, we will experience consequences and ultimately destruction. And that is something that we don't like to hear today. Okay, we feel like we should be allowed to do whatever we want to do, pretty much. Which, of course, human beings have always felt this way. There's nothing unusual or new or progressive about that line of thinking. Human beings have always thought this. We've always believed that God should allow us to do whatever we want to do. And he does, actually, allow us to do whatever we want to do. But if it goes against what he wants us to do, if he goes against the way he has designed for us to be, there will be consequences and there will ultimately be destruction. We don't like that. We think that he should not stand in our way if we want to do things opposite him. But he is the one who made this world. He has a right to expect of it to behave in a certain way. And we think that of ourselves too, as in our limited ability to create. I often go back, I have a printer right over here. You really can't. That curtain's gonna. Anyway, I have. It's a Canon MX922 printer. Very nice printer, actually. Very high quality print. Excellent. I've had like 4 of these over the years. Unfortunately, I think they've been discontinued. So this last one I've got here, the only one that still works, is the only one it's the last one I'm going to have probably. I'll have to find a new type of printer. I've been getting these over and over for like 8 years, and I think since about 2013, 2014. And I really like them. I mean, when they work great. They print out excellent, high quality, colorful print. And you put them in and they can also print discs. And I have had a use for printing discs for a long time. So I actually really like them, but boy, have I had, again, this is the 4th one I think that I've had over the years. And even not just these printers, but printers in general. I have more problems with my printers than I do with any other piece of equipment. There's always something going wrong with these printers. Always something going on. Whether the rollers don't work, or the ink is going out, or the paper gets jammed, or the print head gets clogged, or the nozzle needs to be, or the Wi-Fi, because I don't have them connected to the computer by wire. The Wi-Fi gets messed up. There's just always something going on with these. Always something going on with these printers. There are many parts to these printers, and of course that just means there's more things that can go wrong. And of course the printer moves paper through, so there are moving parts in the printer. And everybody knows that the more moving parts you have, the more probabilities for accidents you have. And I always have problems with these printers. And I have said many times, I just get so frustrated with these printers. All I want to do is print. Okay? Just print. It's like, and I sit there and I look at them and they don't print. It's just so frustrating. As the purchaser of the printer, I have a right to expect the printer to print, because that's what I purchased it for. I purchased it for the sake of it printing or scanning. I do a lot of scanning too. I purchase printers that also have scanning. I don't really copy very much, but I do scan a lot. And it's like, as a purchaser of an item, I expect the item I'm purchasing to perform a certain function, to do a certain thing. If it does not do that thing, if it does not perform that function, I'm going to be upset with it. I'm either going to try to fix it, repair it, or eventually to the point where I throw it out and get something else to do the same thing that actually will work. Another example I like to give is of a toaster. I once got a little cheap little $10 toaster from Walmart. And it didn't want to be a toaster. I don't know if it was a problem with the spring in the toaster or whatever it was. It didn't feel like being a toaster. I put the toast in, I put the bread in there, I put it down, and nothing would happen. The toaster didn't feel like being a toaster. So I played with it for about a year, and then I got rid of it and got another toaster, a little bit more expensive, so it was like $15 instead of $10. I got my year's use of that $10 toaster that I had, fought with it for a year. But eventually I got rid of it and got a $15 toaster, which works. I still have that one to this day. It actually, that was a few years ago by now. And it works. It prints. It makes toast, I should say. I put the toast in there, I put the bread in there, I push it down, it comes out as toast. The other toaster, it didn't do that. I would put the toast in there, I push it down, and it wouldn't come out as toast. So I'm thinking, why am I fighting with the toaster that just doesn't want to make toast? Okay, that's what I got this thing for. I spent $10 at Walmart to get a toaster. I fought with it for a year, and it just didn't want to make toast. Okay, I figured I've had my use of this thing. I've given it a year. I have tried to fix it. I'm not going to go to the... Now, as a purchaser, it's like I'm not going to go to the hassle of opening it up and trying to figure out what's going on with it and fix it. I'm going to just go ahead and get rid of it and get another one. I've gotten my $10 use out of it, having it for a year, fighting with it for a year. I'm going to get another one. I did that. As a purchaser, I have a right to expect that the thing I'm purchasing will do what I'm purchasing it to do. How much more so if I'm the creator? And if I'm the creator of something, I expect that something to do what I created it to do. Now, if I were the creator, I may have a connection to that item that I wouldn't have simply as the purchaser. And I may want to get that thing to work more than if I were the purchaser. If I created that toaster, it may be to my interest to work with that toaster, to try to fix that toaster and make it make toast, or the printers. Okay, I might have a reason, or any number of reasons, as the creator to want to spend more time with the thing I am creating, or have created, to get it to do what I created it to do. I have created, I am an author, so I have experienced the act of creating an idea in my head and making it exist. And I can spend lots of time getting lost in the weeds trying to figure out how to make something work that I'm trying to get to work. So as a purchaser, I may not have that investment. As simply a purchaser of an item, I may not have the investment into wanting to get the item to work correctly before I discard it and get something else that will work correctly, will perform the same function, and will do it correctly. In either case, though, there comes a point in time, and of course God is both the creator and the purchaser. He created us and purchased us. So he has a doubly vested interest in getting us to do what he wants us to do. But as the creator, he has a right to expect his creation to function in a certain way. And if it doesn't, he has the choice to do something about that, to let it go off and do whatever it is it wants to do, regardless of his input, or to get rid of it and try again. And there comes a point in time, where if we're intent on doing whatever it is we want to do, he is going to let us go. And that's what he's doing here at Jericho and Achan, these cities here. He's given them centuries to repent. They haven't done it. They're still not doing it. The Rahab and her family did. A group of people are going to come to Israel in a moment who will do so. But most of these people are not doing it. And so God has now reached a point where he's ready to wipe them out and put new people in their place. But there does come a point where if we continue to not do what God wants us to do, he will eventually discard us. Just like I eventually threw my toaster in the trash and got another one. That's a bit harsh of an imagery, but he will eventually discard us, those of us who insist on not doing what he wants us to do. God has a plan, a purpose, and a function for his creation. He did not make the world just to let it run on its own without following his input or his advice. We feel like he should do that. We feel like he should allow us to do whatever it is we want to do. But that is not what he made the world for. Not from the beginning and not until now. Never has been. He has always, from the beginning and until now, expected his creation to function in a certain way. And he has not changed his mind on that. We don't like that. That bothers us. That's a problem on our end. That's not a problem on God's end. So, this is why the Israelites cannot stand against their enemies. They turn their backs and run because they have been made liable to destruction. I will not be with you anymore unless you destroy whatever among you is devoted to destruction. They specifically, Joshua himself told them this before they went into Jericho. Someone went completely, totally against the explicit instructions of God and Joshua. So now we have to fix this. Go, consecrate the people. Tell them, consecrate yourselves in preparation for tomorrow. For this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. That which is devoted is among you, O Israel. You cannot stand against your enemies until you remove it. In the morning, present yourselves tribe by tribe. The tribe the Lord takes shall come forward clan by clan. The clan the Lord takes shall come forward family by family. And the family that the Lord takes shall come forward man by man. So you go from tribe to clan to family to man. I don't know exactly how broad these clans are, but this is the category of their societal breakdown right here. You have the tribes, which are 12 of those, and then within those tribes, there are clans. I don't know how many clans are in each tribe, or how big a clan, what makes up a clan. And then within each clan, there's a family. And I don't know how many families are in each clan, how big the families are. And then within each family, there is an individual. He who is caught with the devoted things shall be destroyed by fire, along with all that belongs to him. He has violated the covenant of the Lord, and has done a disgraceful thing in Israel. Early the next morning, Joshua had Israel come forward by tribes, and Judah was taken. The clans of Judah came forward, and he took the Zerahites. Remember that long lineage we got of Achan back at the beginning of the chapter? That's why we got it, to increase the suspense as we go through these stages step by step here. He had the clan of the Zerahites come forward by families, and Zimri was taken. Joshua had his family come forward man by man, and Achan, the son of Carmi, the son of Zimri, the son of Zerah, of the tribe of Judah, was taken. I don't know how exactly they're determining the guilty party here. Are they casting lots? Are they consulting the Urim and the Thummim? Remember those things that the high priest had to consult the will of God? I'm not sure. Somehow or another, God is singling out the wrongdoer here. Then Joshua said to Achan, my son, give glory to the Lord, for a solemn charge to tell the truth, the God of Israel, and give him praise, or confess to him. Tell me what you have done. Do not hide it from me. He's doomed. This guy is doomed. God has already said that this person and whoever belongs to him must be destroyed by fire. So he's doomed. There is no getting out of his fate. There is no escaping his predicament. But he can still make it worse for himself by refusing to admit his guilt and lying here. Achan replied, it's true. I have sinned against the Lord, the God of Israel. This is what I have done. When I saw in the plunder a beautiful robe from Babylonia, Shinar, that's the land of the east. We'll be hearing a lot about this place in days to come. 200 shekels of silver and a wedge of gold weighing 50 shekels. I coveted them, and I took them. They are hidden in the ground inside my tent, with the silver underneath. So Joshua sent messengers, and they ran to the tent, and there it was, hidden in his tent with the silver underneath. They took the things from the tent, brought them to Joshua and all the Israelites, and spread them out before the Lord. Then Joshua, together with all Israel, took Achan, son of Zerah, the silver, the robe, the gold wedge, his sons and daughters, his cattle, donkeys, and sheep, his tent, and all that he had, to the valley of Achor. Joshua said, why have you brought this trouble on us? The Lord will bring trouble on you today. Then all Israel stoned him, and after they had stoned the rest, so Achan apparently went first, they burned them. I think that's an example. They didn't burn these people alive. Even the ones who were condemned, I don't think were burned alive. We read about the burning up of the destructed things, the things that owed to destruction. But I don't think the people were burned alive. Even in the midst of a terrible judgment, I believe they were stoned first and then burned. Over Achan, they heaped up a large pile of rocks, which remains to this day. whenever day that is. Then the Lord turned from his fierce anger. Therefore, that place has been called the Valley of Achor ever since. Achor means trouble. So this was trouble that was brought onto Israel by Achan, and trouble that was then brought onto Achan by Achan. So the valley where the trouble was brought on was called the Valley of Trouble.